Dear content creator, have you ever wondered how you can fund your creative projects without breaking the bank? Well, in today's episode, we are going to be diving into the world of grants and funding opportunities for content creators like you. How to find them, how to prepare, and I'll also be sharing my own personal experience with receiving funding of up to $30,000 to fund my projects and bring them to life. So, let's dive in. What up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Dear Content Creator. I am your host, Karis Maggie, and y'all, welcome officially to season 2. Yes, we are in season 2 right now. I cannot believe it, y'all. There is so much to celebrate. I know it's been a minute since I released an episode, but I was thinking about it and I said, you know what? We had about 21 episodes at the time. I said, I think that's a good, time for me to kind of break, have a little hiatus, prepare for season 2 and come back stronger. Not to mention, y'all, the fact that I was sick for most of September. Lord, you see the memory going. I was sick for most of September for like a week and a half. I was sick, and then in between that work. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do any episodes. So I gave myself time to rest, break, and I thought it was fitting to come back. By the time you listen to this episode, it will be October, which in Canada it's going to be Small Business Month. Whoop. And as content creators, yes, we are small businesses as well. But I also wanted to take a moment to celebrate our 1 year anniversary of the podcast. Yes, last month we celebrated 1 year. So when I started the podcast, it was September of 2024 when I released my first couple of episodes. And ever since, it has been pretty much a roller coaster ride that I thoroughly enjoy. I won't say this is something easy to do. Kudos to people who have been doing podcasting for years, but then adding on the video element to it because you're trying to get additional visibility, meeting people where they're at, especially when platforms like YouTube has now implemented, focusing on podcasts and video podcasts to be specific. It kind of forces you to think about that as well as you're thinking of growing and building up your podcast. So I won't lie, it's been a lot. And for some of you who have listened to the last couple of episodes, you would have heard me say the cadence is going to roll back a bit to bi-weekly instead of what I was doing before, which was weekly. So I'm looking forward to continuing the conversations. We're going to be diving deeper this season. Some of the topics that I promised to talk about in the first season, I didn't get to, but I think everything happens in its good, like the right timing. And so when we're talking about brand deals and PR events, all of that, we are going to be getting into that in this season. And I just thought, why not start off the season by talking about how y'all can get some money to fund your projects as content creator, whether it's your project, whether it's to help pay you while you're creating and you don't have to be worrying about your bills and how you're going to get money. There are programs out there as well for creators where they're able to just freely create and they get like a stipend. So that's what we're going to pretty much be talking about in this episode. So welcome back, y'all. Yes. So as I mentioned in the intro, the episode today is going to be focused on grants. And before we really get into the nitty gritty, I think it's important to actually define, I guess you could say, what grants are. And the easiest way to define it is that they are non-payable funds. So you get the money, you don't have to pay it back. It's not like loans where you have to pay it back and then there's interest and all of that. With grants, which we love over here, you get the money and you don't have to pay it back. What I will say though is every grant is different. So keep that in mind. And as you're looking for grant opportunities, you are going to find that you have to adapt a bit based on the requirements and just preparing yourselves according to the different grants that are out there. So some of them might require you to do video pitch. Some of them might require you to finish certain like requirements in the program, like meeting one-on-one with your mentor, going to group sessions, finishing some online courses in order for you to meet the prerequisites for you to then get the money. And then others, they could be that they pay the money out in installments. So they want to see that you have done part of what you said you were going to do before they just shell out and give you all the money all at once. So it's important to know these things. I hope that makes it clear what grants are compared to what loans are. And as someone who has had experience getting a loan before, it's not that I would never do it again. It's just at the time when I did, I didn't have any other option. And thankfully, at the time, I had a 9 to 5, so I could take my time to budget accordingly and pay the, bi-weekly payments that would come out of my paycheck. But it's not something that I would depend on, or not depend, but like recommend, especially if you're taking large amounts. So when it comes down to loans, I personally am glad that I just listened to my gut and took what I needed and not what they were trying to give me just because I was eligible for it. So probably a whole nother conversation for another day. But as creators, if you have not yet been rolling in the dough from brand deals or other ways of making income, whether you have a course, an accountability group, whatever it is that you're using your talents as a content creator to help you make additional money, sometimes it just might not be enough to help move the needle for you to do certain things that you want to do. And so that's where grants come in, and they can be a huge game changer, especially when you're trying to get a certain amount of money where you can hire other people on who are professionals in what they do to help you really bring your ideas to life. So before we go a bit further into, I guess, I'm of course going to be mentioning some examples of grants that are out there, talking about my own experience, what that journey was like. I kind of want to talk about the process of how you should be thinking about grants so that you can keep it on the top of your mind and not wait until the last minute and then you're scrambling to apply. So just like, I guess you could say, with any opportunity, you have to be ready for it. So you have to make sure that you're prepared. But sometimes you won't know about these opportunities that are out there. And what you have to do is research them. So I remembered for myself, when I was looking for grant opportunities, I will preface this by saying, though, not everything will always be in your face when you're looking for it. Sometimes you have to know certain words to look for or certain websites. And that's where following certain pages on social media will come in very handy for that, for example. But in my experience, for me, I was fortunate enough to be following a page on social media that they happen to be doing a program that could help you fast track to apply for a grant. So I'll talk a bit more about that later on in the episode, but it always starts off first with you having to do your research. Everyone's business, everyone's projects are going to be different, and so there are different grants for different projects. If you want to do a project that's related to AI, you're going to have to look for grants that sometimes are specific to that and sometimes probably provides general grant supports, because you have some grants that are not super specific with what projects they support. You just have to have a great idea. Once they like it, you might be lucky and get the money. But then there are others that they can be super specific about what it is that they're looking for. So make sure that you're looking for grants that are specific to your business or the idea that you're trying to get funded. And that is the place to start. How you can go about doing this is, of course, by Googling. Sometimes it's also a matter of you subscribing to certain newsletters. I will provide some recommendations later on in the episode, but also social media pages, and like just networking. How I was able to find out about some grant opportunities is by talking to other creators who were probably successful in either applying or being a part of certain programs, and they told me about it. So I just put it on my radar to look out for it the next time around. So those are what I would say. So I personally try and keep up by making note of grants that I hear. And even if I miss the deadline, I won't like pass it off another time. I'll make a note of, okay, this is the name of the grant. This is when it usually comes out so that I can be ready the next time. But in that time, if I had missed the deadline, you have to also take the time to read the requirements of the grant, see if you would be eligible. If you're not eligible, maybe your idea wouldn't fit. Is there another project that you can think of in the meantime that would be more of a fit when that grant comes around another time? So those are some of the things I would definitely say. So speaking of keeping track of the grants that are out there and deadlines and different things like that, I want to quickly go into the things I'm loving right now segment. So, if you've listened to the podcast before, you have heard me talk about Notion before. Notion is a tool that I pretty much use to help me to organize myself when it comes on to creating content, both for my long form, so with my podcast planning, with also my newsletter, and also with my short form content. I have an area in Notion board that I make, a workspace, customizable, everything for me to keep track. And so I have a grant tracker that I recently made for myself just because I kind of felt like I would hear about grants, but then I forget the names of them. And then one minute I'll be scrolling on social media and I see the grant pop up and, oh no, it's only 2 days to apply. And then I've missed out on that opportunity. So for me, it has helped me to just be able to be aware of the grants that are out there, and if I'm interested in applying, at least I can put information like the deadline. I make it into like more of a project management tool where I have specific deadlines for this is when I want to sit down, take some time to read the requirements of it to see if I'm eligible to even apply, and then this is when I'll start my application, and this is how much time I'm giving myself to actually complete it so I can get ready to submit it. So little stuff like that. I know for me, I have to keep myself organized in that way or else I'll forget. So this has been a lifesaver for me and I highly, highly recommend it. Honestly, what I just love about Notion is that you can either use templates that they have and make it into something of your own, or you can start from scratch and make it super, super customizable based on what you're looking for. But I would say that their templates are pretty like chef's kiss. So love that, love that. If you haven't checked them out yet, make sure to do. In the past, I used to use like Google spreadsheets, but I found that because it's so easy for you to lose where it is and looking for it depending on how many different types of Excel or spreadsheet documents you're making. So for me, I just have it right in Notion. It is there when I need it. It also comes with a mobile app that I can use. So if I'm always out and about, I go to an event, someone mentions it, I could easily just note it into my Notion space and I am good to go. So yeah, that is it for our segment of things I'm loving right now. All right, y'all. So far we have talked about the beginning steps when it comes on to grants, which is just researching. And I mentioned that I was going to provide some resources. So yes, you can Google it. What I would recommend is if you can look for specific keywords like grants for X in and you insert your city or you insert your province. Sometimes you can also look for grants based on a certain group that you fit into. So if you're a woman, if you are marginalized, queer, etc., those are some of the ways too that you can find some grant opportunities. Outside of that, there's also specific newsletters that I would recommend that you subscribe to. One particular one that I'm subscribed to actually is called Jelly Social. So if you were to find them on Instagram, please go ahead and find them on Instagram and just go ahead, subscribe to their newsletter. They're always sending out grant opportunities that are available. Another recommendation I have is the Federation of Black Canadians. So if you are someone who identifies as Black in Canada, they always have grant opportunities that they're sharing on their page. Also through their newsletter, if you're someone that you don't want to lose finding anything on social media, especially with how the algorithms work. So I would recommend following these pages on social, but also subscribe to their newsletter if they have one. So these are two that I would say off the top of my head that I follow. If you would like to get a more like detailed list, I would recommend that y'all subscribe to my newsletter, because as I get resources like this, I am sending them out. And so you will get some stuff on the podcast, but then there are other stuff that you get on my newsletter. So shameless plug, but subscribe, okay? So that's the first thing. Research, that's important. The second thing is, now that you've researched what these grants are, make sure that you're paying attention to the requirements that they have. The eligibility is crucial for you to know that you're not wasting your time. So if there is a grant that is specific for women and you are a man, it doesn't make sense for you to apply for that. It is a very specific grant. If there are grants that are for specific groups of people, make sure that you're paying attention to that, because they are very specific on the groups that that specific grant is for. So the eligibility will also let you know whether the grant is a full grant. Are they giving you 100% of the funding, or do they only provide a percentage? This will be good for you to know, so you know how much money you probably need to have, because usually with grants, how it works is that you give your budget and they will only give you whatever percentage of your budget. So it could be 50% or 70%. And then you have some grants that would give like the full 100%. So grants, they can vary. So just be aware of that. The other thing I would say is look at the location. Some grants are also very specific to location. I know for me, one of the things that would pain me is when I see someone plug a grant opportunity and then I click on it and it says US based only, and I'm like, damn it. So that is something that you will know ahead of time. I'm not even going to waste my time because it says US only. That is that. Sometimes the content is very specific. So if you're someone that knows that you need funding for a long form type of content, but there's a grant that's only for short form, either you're going to adapt it to fit the criteria of what they're looking for, or you leave that grant alone. That is what I would recommend. Some of them also will look for your level of experience, or they want to see a portfolio. What have you worked on before on your own? Because here's the thing with grants. Even though it's like free money, quote unquote, that's being given, they also want to ensure that they are investing in the right projects. So they want to see that reliability too. They want to see that track record. So anything that you can do to really showcase yourself, like start gathering those things together. And that would bring me to like the third part of preparing yourself. So gather all of these documents that you need. You need to have like probably your business number and business documents on hand. You probably need to have certain like insurance documents on hand as well. I remember there was a year that I had applied for a funding. This was for $10,000. Spoiler alert, I did get it. Woohoo! And there was something that was missing on my document. It was my business number. I didn't realize that when you apply through the government website in Ontario, they don't really give you a business number. And so that was missing for me. And they sent me an email. Lucky for me, I was like still in Canada at the time, so I could quickly call up the CRA and get the help from them so that they could tell me what my actual business number was. And funny enough, that was like 3 days before I was supposed to fly to Jamaica for my wedding. The stress, what me got through, and I had a time crunch for this too, y'all. So I had a certain amount of like time I was given to do that, maybe less than 24 hours, because what happens is other people were applying, and as they're accepting other people, if they fit the criteria, my spot could have get bumped out. Like I could lose my spot in being able to potentially get that grant opportunity. So be aware of things like that, y'all. So make sure you have all your business documents together. More like 9 out of 10 times when you're applying for grants, they are dealing with a business versus a person. So it will be likely that in some cases your business has to be incorporated, especially in Canada. I'm specifically talking to people in Canada, because most of us, we start off as sole proprietorship. So it's important for you to know that depending on also the business structure that you have, are you eligible or not? They will be requiring that as well. So look for what requirements they have, if they're looking for incorporated or if they're open to also sole proprietorship or incorporated as well. Have your budget breakdown ready, because this is another thing that many people don't know, but There are a lot of grants out there that they want to know what you are doing with every red cent. To the dollar, you have to tell them to the cent what the money is going towards. So have an idea of what your budget is, the line item of what those money is going to. And this is good practice for you because it allows you to also know, okay, based on these things I'm doing, this is roughly how much money is costing me. So that lets you know as a creator, if you're someone who also do influencer marketing, how much are you charging for brand deals? How much are you charging for consultation? Like that helps you with knowing your overall like costs for doing any type of project, because you're having to hire people to help you. So whether that's you need a makeup artist, you need a stylist, whatever the project is in that kind of regard, have an idea of what the things cost and have a budget breakdown ready, because you're going to be asked for it 9 out of 10 times. And how could I forget? Be prepared to pitch yourself. You are going to have a project proposal or a pitch. This is the part I think that will be the make or break for many people who do get grant opportunities, because they are wanting to give it to people who not only sound confident in their project, but you're making them also believe this is a good investment. So you're not begging in your applications. Don't use any language that seems to be begging, like, I really need this or anything like that. Like, leave it out. Like, be confident in your application. Brag a little bit about your, accomplishments, or how is what you're doing different from what's already out there, or what is the unique perspective that you will be bringing to the table, even if it's something that already exists. Like little stuff like that they look for. And for me, in my experience, that's usually the projects I feel like I see people getting funded is the ones that have the better pitch. So work on already crafting your proposal and your pitch. Be aware of what they call it, the limit, the character limit is as well, because sometimes it's very specific. It might just be 250 words or characters, or it might be 500, or they let you just spill your guts, like whatever the case might be very aware of that and try to be as concise as possible with your pitches or your proposal. This also goes the same for video pitches. Some grants might be a video pitch that you need to do, so you will have to make sure that your video is within the requirements. Like some grants only take like maximum 2 minutes. If you go over that, you've kind of like disqualified yourself from advancing to the next level or whatever the case might be. So those are like the main things I can say. And last but not least, y'all, like don't count yourself out just because it might be your first time or you're afraid of getting rejected. Like rejection is part of the process, and sometimes rejection is just redirection. And honestly, sometimes it's not even that your project wasn't like good enough. Sometimes it just comes down to they were limited and they could only give it to the best of the best, pretty much. But that helps you to kind of continue to refine your grant. Sometimes you can ask for feedback if that is possible. Not all the time you will get feedback if you ask for it, but you can try and ask for feedback. And I would also recommend that you have someone else look over your grant application before you submit it. Someone else who can have a more objective eye to tell you things that you could like tweak a bit or improve. I know when I have applied for grants in the past, I always had someone look over it. If I was doing a pitch competition, I always practice with somebody so that they could give me feedback on how my pitch was. Like, always have someone else's opinion that can help you like refine your application. Another tip that I have for you guys, especially when you're applying to any funding opportunities through programs like Canada Media Fund or Ontario Creates, any of these organizations, look out for when they are also offering any info sessions, because in those info sessions, they are breaking down the important parts of the funding eligibility or guidelines for you so that you can also ask questions if you have any, and they have opportunities for you to also follow up with them to maybe get some questions answered via email, or you can book a quick call with them as well to get some of your questions answered. So don't miss out on any of these resources that are available. If you see an info session available for a grant that you want to apply for, make sure that you attend that info session. You will save yourself a lot of time trying to figure out confusing language in some of these grant requirements and guidelines and whatnot. And it also allows you to have a direct contact person that you can follow up with should you have any questions, because they usually give their contacts on these specific info sessions as well. So those are like the main things I would say. So research the grant opportunities using websites, newsletters, social media groups. Make sure you read the requirements of the grants, the content type, the level of experience they're probably looking for, and then make sure that you are gathering your important documents from business documents, portfolio stuff, budget breakdown, your proposal pitch, or your project pitch, bio, whatever they want to call it, because different grants might name it different things. And lastly, have someone review it and give their feedback. Nothing wrong with getting feedback, okay? Even artists get feedback from each other. They are, bouncing ideas off each other, brainstorming with each other to be better, So make sure you do that. But I would say the biggest tip of all is make sure that you read the guidelines carefully. This is something I saw actually mentioned online by someone, but they mentioned that a lot of people lose out on opportunities because they do not read the requirements properly, and they make very, very small mistakes because of that. So be very aware of that. You're not the only one who's applying. You want to put your best foot forward. You want to position yourself to be in a very strong position too. So you don't want to leave any room for error. If anything, it should come down to maybe just there were just stronger applications. It was a limited amount of funding they could give, blah, blah, blah. Nothing on your part that caused you to lose out on that opportunity, like a mistake. Okay. Now story time. So let's talk about how I have been able to get grant opportunities of up to $30,000. So I'll actually talk about my very first grant opportunity. So the first one was actually a pitch competition, and it was for $5,000. Like, it was valued at $5,000. So I wasn't getting paid in cash, but I was getting like the prizes that I would win in total was $5,000 worth. It included consultations, some in-kind things like subscriptions for certain services, little stuff like that. So in total, it came up to $5,000. And I remembered when I saw this grant, it was actually in a Facebook group. And I put it on my radar and I said, okay, I'm going to apply, because you're still going to have to apply. And then you will be selected to be a part of the pitch competition. So I was one of, I believe, 10 persons who were selected for this pitch competition. And I came out as the first place winner. But here is how I prepared myself. Similar to how I would have prepared myself for a written grant, I made sure to have my pitch very concise. So you want to make sure that you have a presentation deck. In the case of doing a pitch competition, you will have a presentation deck, and you want to make sure it has all of your information very concise. So who you are, the who, the why, the what. And I guess sometimes in some cases you're telling the how as well. Show them how you're doing it so far and how the money could probably help you take it to the next level, that type of angle. So for this, I remembered I did that presentation about 3 times before I locked down the final one. And I had a friend that I practiced in front of on Zoom, because that is how the grant competition was done. It was over Zoom. So at least that gave me the practice of what it would be like having to change my own slides while still keeping my train of thought to talk about my pitch or whatever during this competition. So Yeah, that was my very first experience. And for this particular grant, it was with the Canadian Small Business. So they were the ones who were hosting this grant opportunity. And so I like to follow pages like that because they're always trying to do little initiatives like this to help get people money in their pocket, or at least get them in kind prizes that are valued for that amount of money. The second one was this was actually a workshop program that I applied to be a part of. So it was through Amplifier. I'm going to also mention them in the show notes or the description so you can check them out. And I have some information about an upcoming workshop program that they have. Later on in the video, I'll mention it. But this was with Amplifier. They had a partnership with Ontario Create, where they were helping Black creators who had an idea for production, that they could help them through this 4-week workshop. And the point of the program was to get you ready to pitch for the grant itself. So you're learning everything about the funding application process for that specific grant. You're learning how to craft your own pitch, learning about putting together your budget based on the requirements of this program as well, for you to then be eligible to apply for the grant. Because what this program did as well is that it broke the barrier that a lot of us were facing, where you had to be incorporated for you to apply for that grant. And so someone like me who did that 4-week program, it fast tracked me to be able to then apply for the grant once it opened up. But I had to finish the program for me to be eligible to do so. So there are kind of programs out there that might be like a bridge to help people that are usually from communities that are a bit more, marginalized. You don't really get access to these resources. Like, incorporating a business is not cheap. Keeping a business incorporated is not cheap. And as someone who currently has one, and it's not even bringing in money because it's my production company, it's like, yeah, like it's not cheap. Insurance, all of that for it, it's not cheap at all. So I can understand why a lot of people tend to just stick to sole proprietorship until they're making a certain amount of income. So that was my second experience. For that, there are a couple things that I did. I went to every single one of the workshop sessions. That was number one. I asked questions and I reviewed every single note after the sessions that we had. And I also rewatched recordings for the sessions that we had over Zoom. So we did half and half. Some of the sessions were in person, some of the sessions were over Zoom. And I would kind of like give myself homework where in the meantime, I'm reading the requirements for the grant. Even though this program is just to allow me to apply, I wanted to know, okay, what am I kind of getting myself into to begin with? And I was aware that with this specific one, it only gave 75% of my budget. So that was something I had to have in the back of my mind, that, okay, when it opens up, if I know I want to get the full $20,000 grant, I technically would have to have at least $6,000 to account for, because that would be the 25% of my full $26,000 budget. So that was one thing I would say, like just being aware of certain like little requirements like this, it can help you be prepared for anything. So nothing is a surprise when the grant actually does become available. The second thing is that I got a mentor to help me with my pitch as well. So I would like put together my drafts for when the program actually opened up, or the grant, I should say, opened up for us to start applying. There were certain documents and like stuff they asked for, like they wanted like your proposal. They wanted a breakdown of what would your production scheduling look like. They wanted your budget breakdown. And there was something else. I think it was called like impact report. Like, how would this be beneficial to like the economy of where you live, or something like that. So these are things that I would put together, and then I would get feedback from my mentor. And I also reached out to someone who was a previous grant recipient, and asked them some questions just to know what their experience was like. What are some of the things they think helped them with their grant to make it a bit stronger, with their application, I mean, to make it stronger, and etc., so that I could apply those notes to my own grant. So anyone who has ever asked me about the program, I've always like pretty much been open and honest with them. I think sometimes timing matters, but also the idea also will matter for the period you're in. So if it's a hot topic for that time, or if it's a super big interest, you're more likely to get investment in it. So that's also something to just be aware of. I forgot to mention it, but be aware of like the trends that are happening and the things that it seems like people are looking to invest in at the time. And that will help you have an idea of what projects to pitch as well. One of the things that we did as part of this program as well was that towards the very end, we had a practice pitch. And this was not for us to have any serious grade or anything. It was really just wrapping up the program and getting us used to pitching our ideas, especially when it's related to TV and film or web series. And we had judges that were there to listen to our pitch, give us feedback. And I pitched my little heart out. Yes, I did. I pitched my series that was Kitchens of Toronto. So for anyone who follows me on my main social media page, which is at Charismaggy TV, you would see on my page that there is a pinned video right now. Hopefully by the time you hear this episode, there's a pinned video to the trailer of that very series that I was able to get some funding to create that specific trailer for. So that was a cool experience. I felt proud of myself for putting myself out there. You learn different ways to get used to public speaking, because it's very different pitching online when you're virtual versus when you're pitching like in person. So I love that I was able to get those different opportunities so far as I've been going through grants and pitch applications, procedures and journey pretty much. That was my second experience. The final one is called the RAISE program, which stands for Racialized and Indigenous Support for Entrepreneurs. And this one was for $10,000. So I received this grant, and the application was pretty simple. I would say it was probably one of the simplest ones I've done in a very long time. Of course, I did mention the mishap that I had with that business number issue and how I was able to quickly resolve it. So for me, it was a matter of just, I guess, being more aware of what is actually included on my business documents when I get it. And that is also part of the reason why anytime I'm registering a business now, or if I'm recommending it to anyone, I use owner. The government websites to register a business, honestly, they're horrible. They're not the best at all. Do not recommend. So for this program, not only was the application process pretty simple, but once I got accepted in, thank you, Lord, it was for me to do a couple requirements, such as meeting with my mentor for one-on-one sessions. I believe I had to just meet with them 3 times. And then there were group sessions that we had to do as well, where I think those were either 4 or 5 sessions. In addition to that, there were certain online courses that were required for us to do. And then we had to complete like a very simplified version of a budget sheet, which basically shows where the $10,000 is going to, and you had to categorize them accordingly. So for me, there were certain things I wanted to get, like mics for, like what I'm doing here with the podcast. There were things like photo shoot and video shoot for my business as well. So you had to specify what they were and how it would like help your business, given a reason. So those were the things I could remember I had to do for that in particular. Hands down, one of the easiest grants that I've ever had to do. The hardest one, I would say, was definitely the one that I did with Ontario Creates, the Future Forwards one. So the second one I mentioned, which was for $20,000. All right, y'all. So we are going to now move on to our creator scoop segment. So in this segment, I give you updates on any news in the creator world. I'm going to be focusing on some upcoming grant opportunities that I know about so that you don't miss out. So listen up very carefully. So the first one is the Independent Production Fund. They have a deadline for production application coming up October 6th of this year, so 2025. If I'm being totally honest with y'all, I don't fully understand this particular grant, and you would have to read the guidelines on your own to really grasp what they're looking for and what their requirements are. I cannot do that in this full episode. So I am going to put the description or the link for you in the show notes or the description box so you can go through it and see if it fits you what you're trying to do. But the objectives for this is that it is to assist independent producers or creators in financing the production of original digital drama series that are initially for the web. So if you have a web series that you want to create that is drama related, so it's, within that drama series, this sounds like it would be the type of funding for you. So going back again to some of these fundings can be very specific. So again, the deadline for that is October 6th. See the link in the show notes for more updates or for more information on this, or in the description box if you are watching this on YouTube. Next one is the Amplifier Workshop, Futures Forward. So remember how I mentioned that program that I was in that helped me to fast track to then be able to apply for funding with the Ontario Creates Future Forward program. So this is what it is. So if you have an idea for a project, a linear video project, this program is perfect for you. It's designed to fast track applications to the Ontario Creates IDM concept definition and production programs. And in this workshop program, you are going to be learning how to pitch your program, navigate the funding ecosystem, and if you're accepted, you will be able to receive one of the limited number of grants of up to $20,000. So deadline for this application is October 6th, and the program is going to be from October 23rd to November 22nd. So again, you want to find out more information for this one or how to apply, the link is going to be in the show notes for this as well. Lastly, y'all, this one is more of a grant resource for you. So if you're someone who's looking for different grants that are available that can be sent directly to your mailbox, then you definitely want to subscribe to the Grant for Creators newsletter. It is done by Danielle. She is an amazing travel content creator and podcaster, and I love all of the resources that she shares in this space because she dedicates her time to literally seeking out these grants and putting them together and curating them for folks to get access to. So again, link is going to be in the show notes or the description box for you to check this one out as well. Now, we've talked a lot about grants that you can apply for where you are knowing a certain amount of money that you're getting. But one thing that also is available for you as content creators are creator programs. And I'm not talking about getting paid by TikTok, getting accepted into the TikTok creator program or Instagram Reel bonus or anything like that, or the YouTube program. I'm talking about curated programs that these platforms make where they select folks to be a part of it, provide resource for them, and sometimes they also will provide a stipend for the creator. Now, I've heard this for other type of programs before. Some are not available in Canada, but recently, if you had listened to one of my episodes, you would have learned that I was part of the Pinterest Inclusion Fund. And that was a program that I was a part of for about 4 weeks, learning the ins and outs of Pinterest, how I can leverage it, use it, and continue to be a frequent user of Pinterest. And at the end of it, I was able to get a little stipend that could go towards my content creation. And little grants like this are helpful because it helps you to invest in certain subscriptions that you might want, or maybe it's the materials that you need to buy for said content that you are creating to then post on these platforms. So that's a resource I would say that definitely helped me recently to invest in myself and get some new gadgets for my content creation. The other ones that I know about, I don't know if all of them are still available anymore, but once upon a time there was one called the YouTube Black Creator Program. This one actually got created after the whole tragic incident with George Floyd. As you all know, many platforms, many companies were pledging their support for the Black community during this time. Due to the political climate right now, I'm sure we can see how that has swiftly changed recently. However, there was a time when there was a program that accepted creators and they not only got support directly to help their channels grow and be strategic, but they got a pretty nice stipend too that could literally allow some of them to quit their jobs and go into this thing full time, because There was money that they were given to help them out with content. No questions asked what they spent the money on. So that is like an example too of their programs that are out there. It doesn't necessarily all the time have to be like a grant where it's for a specific project. It could just simply be that you got accepted into one. They provide a stipend for certain requirements and things that you do throughout the program. The last one that I'll mention, or the last two I'll say, I know that Substack has had programs like this as well. Patreon, I'm not sure if they still do it, but I know of people who have been invited into Patreon related programs where they also got some type of funding or stipend, you could say. And even Meta has done this before. I actually listened to a private podcast episode the other day, specifically from someone who was part of a Meta creator program that gave them some sort of financial support while they were a part of the program. So there are different ways, but it's just a matter of knowing what's out there sometimes. The only way for you to truly know is by also networking with people who are a part of these programs and getting a better understanding of their journey. And so that's why I'm looking forward to having more creators on my platform come this season of their content creator. You can expect to see some guests, and I will have them share some of the ins and outs of their own creator journey that I will be learning from them with you as the listeners and the viewers as well. So definitely looking forward to that as well. Well, lovely people, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I think this was a great way to kick off not only Small Business Month, but also season 2, where get into the money, where the money resides. That's what we are dealing with. And it's important for us to look for ways to keep our businesses sustainable. I think it wasn't until recently that many people have been realizing that this is how many people have been able to stay afloat with their business. It's not just cash flow through their business, but they're finding different ways to keep their business sustained through grants, opportunities that can help them either take their business to the next level by hiring people, or it can help them kind of sustain it so they can continue to build on it and hire little by little. So I appreciate you for listening. I'm over here sweating my face off, but I hope that you found it insightful. And if you have any questions, any follow-up questions that you have, there might be an opportunity to do a part 2. We don't know, but I need to know from y'all what you would like to hear on the podcast. Send any questions you have to dearcontentcreator@gmail.com. And also don't forget, subscribe to my newsletter. The link will be linked in the show notes and the description for you. If you love the podcast, don't forget to give it a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform, whether Apple, Spotify. If you listen on YouTube, you can't really rate it, but watch the episode and give me a comment. Give YouTube some kind of notification so you love the podcast as well over there. All right. Until next time, y'all. Bye.